Boss offered 50 grand for my breast milk. I thought he was a freak wanting to take it home for a kid. That was until I saw him, body limp and weak, chugging my milk like it was an elixir of life. Only then did I realize he needs human milk to survive. Later, the price tag hit $500,000. The catch, he wanted it straight from the source for the money. I said yes. Then came the day he asked for $5 million. Would you let me? My boss called me in. I was shaking, sweating, terrified he was going to fire me if I got canned. I was dead. Zero income back when I was pregnant with my daughter, Bella. My old company forced me to resign. The hospital bills and NICU costs wiped out what little savings I had tucked away. I was reduced to begging my husband, Travis, for cash. Every time I asked, it was a fight. He'd bitch about this, complain about that. Don't buy that. That's unnecessary. And finally, the classic line. I'm broke too, Chloe. Thank God my tits were heavy. With milk, I could breastfeed, saving us on formula. But Bella's diapers cost money. Clothes cost money. Every onesie she owns is too tight now. Winter is coming to Chicago and she needs a coat. If luck hadn't landed me this job, my baby would be shivering in wet diapers. You don't need to be nervous, the boss said, sitting across from me. His voice was smooth, gentle. Mr. Sterling is 33 this year. He looks refined, scholarly and harmless. The kind of guy you instinctively trust. I called you in for a personal matter. My shoulders dropped. I relaxed. Mr. Sterling gave me a slight smile. He's handsome, depressingly so. But what I envy more is the stench of old money on him. He's loaded. I wished I could be like him. God, I regret being so young and stupid. Marrying Travis. And popping out a kid before I knew how the world worked. Now my life is a misery and my child is suffering for it. Are you currently lactating? I want to buy some of your breast milk. Is that okay? Rest assured. I will pay. I naturally assumed he had a kid at home. Or maybe a friend's baby was starving and the mom ran dry. In our mommy groups, people ask for donor milk sometimes. Usually nobody charges for it. If you're leaking, you donate. So I said, Mr. Sterling, if you need it, you don't have to pay. Bella can't finish it all anyway. I usually just dump the extra down the sink. Mr. Sterling shook his head quickly. No. I don't like owing favors. Plus, I need a strict daily supply. If I don't pay you, I can't enforce my demands. Demands okay? If money wasn't involved, demands would be rude. But with cash on the table, that changes things. I nodded. All right. But you don't need to pay too much. Just a token amount. Kissing the boss's ass seemed like a good insurance policy against getting fired. Mr. Sterling added me on Venmo and instantly zapped me $50,000. Holy shit. I stared at him in shock. That's way too much. He stopped me from protesting. Don't refuse. I have a lot of requirements. You've passed your medical checks, so I know your milk is clean. Also, I have some intrusive requests, which is why the price is so high. Looking at that $50K, my heart ached. My bank account currently had $80 in it. I skipped lunch daily, surviving on the free crackers and stale coffee in the break room, just to save pennies. I was dirt poor because I was poor. Travis and his monster of a mother, Mrs. Higgins, treated me like garbage. And I couldn't dare divorce him. If I divorced him, they'd fight for custody. With no money, I'd lose Bella even if I won. I couldn't afford childcare, which meant relying on my mother-in-law to watch her. Leaving Travis meant renting my own place. More money I didn't have. I regretted being young and dumb. I jumped into marriage and motherhood blind. Now I was trapped in quicksand. But this $50K, this money, solved a huge chunk of my problems. Mr. Sterling laid out his rules. First, you need to pump here in my private office every day. Nowhere else. I need to ensure the milk is sterile and safe. That made sense. Rumor had it Sterling came from a billionaire family. Rich people are paranoid about getting poisoned. Second, to guarantee the nutritional value, you must eat 3 meals a day prepared by my personal chef. Wow. Rich people. Rich people. I muttered to myself, staring at the gourmet bento box sitting on the mahogany desk in the private anteroom Mr. Sterling had set up for me. It was insane. Grilled salmon with truffle oil, quinoa salad with ingredients I couldn't pronounce, and a smoothie that probably cost more than my wedding dress. But I ate it. I ate every bite because I had 50,000 reasons to do so. When the notification hit my phone, $50, 000.00 received, I nearly passed out. I immediately transferred $45,000 into a secret high-yield savings account I'd opened that morning, one Travis didn't know existed. I left $5,000 in the joint account to keep the wolves at bay. That night, I went home and endured the usual barrage. Where's dinner? Travis asked from the couch, not looking up from his game. I picked up pizza, I said, dropping the box on the table. Pizza again? My mother said you need to learn to cook decent meals. You're lazy, Chloe. I didn't bite. I didn't scream. I just looked at him and thought about the secret stash building in the cloud. Keep talking, Travis. Every word just makes it easier to leave. For a month, the routine was seamless. I went to work, ate the chef's food, pumped in the private office, and left the bottles in a dedicated mini fridge. Mr. Sterling, Arthur, as his assistant called him, was rarely seen. He was a ghost in his own company, a powerful signature at the bottom of emails. But I noticed things. The office was always kept unusually warm. The blinds were always drawn. And Arthur Sterling, on the rare occasions I saw him walking to the elevator, looked frail. His skin was alabaster, almost translucent. He walked with a cane, though he tried to hide it. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. I had forgotten my phone in the pumping room. Mr. Sterling's private inner sanctum. I was halfway to the subway when I realized it. I rushed back up. The office was mostly empty, the assistants gone for the day. I didn't knock. I just swiped my keycard. Mr. Sterling, I'm so sorry I left my... The words died in my throat. The inner office was dim. Mr. Sterling was slumped in his leather chair, his head thrown back, gasping for air. He looked like a man drowning on dry land. His skin was gray, sweat beading on his forehead. On the desk was one of my bottles. He snatched it up with trembling hands, uncapped it, and downed it. He didn't drink it like a fetishist. He drank it like a man dying of thirst in the desert. He drank it with a desperation that was terrifying to watch. As the milk hit his system, I watched a miracle happen. The color returned to his cheeks. His breathing leveled out. The tremors in his hands ceased. He slumped forward, resting his forehead on the desk, panting. He wasn't a pervert. He was sick. I didn't see anything, I whispered, backing away. He looked up. His eyes, usually cool and detached, were burning with a mix of shame and intensity. Wait, he rasped. I froze. Close the door, Chloe. I obeyed. He gestured for me to sit. He looked exhausted, but the vitality was returning to him by the second. You think I'm a monster, he said. I think you're unwell, I replied carefully. Arthur laughed, a dry, bitter sound. Unwell. That's polite. I have a genetic metabolic disorder. Extremely rare. My body cannot process complex proteins found in, well, anything. Animal meat, plant-based substitutes, even synthesized formulas. My immune system attacks them like poison. He looked at the empty bottle. Human milk is the only thing my body recognizes. It's the only thing that keeps my organs from shutting down. It contains the specific immunoglobulins and enzymes I can't produce myself. He looked me in the eye. I am 33 years old, and without this, I starved to death in a week. My heart broke. All that money, all that power, and he was a prisoner of his own biology. Why me? I asked. Because you're healthy, he said. And because you were desperate. I needed a reliable source, and you needed a lifeline. It was mutually beneficial. It's okay, I said softly. I'm not judging you. If it keeps you alive, it's medicine. He looked at me then, really looked at me, with an expression I couldn't place. Gratitude? Or something deeper? Thank you, Chloe. Winter hit Chicago hard. The wind off the lake was brutal. But Bella had a new down coat, and I had a secret escape fund. Things were looking up. Until they weren't. Travis found the receipt for the coat. He screamed at me for 2 hours about wasting money, then demanded to know where I got the cash. I told him it was a holiday bonus. He demanded I transfer the rest of it to him for his investment, which I knew meant online poker. I refused. He threw a plate against the wall, inches from my head. Bella started screaming. That night, I slept with the bedroom door locked, holding a kitchen knife under my pillow. The next day at work, the atmosphere was heavy. Arthur hadn't been in for 3 days. His assistant, a stern woman named Greta, looked worried. When I was called into the inner office, Arthur was there. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him. He was in a wheelchair, a blanket over his legs. Mr. Sterling, I gasped. Sit, he whispered. He didn't waste time. The breakdown of the enzymes, he said, his voice weak. When you pump, exposure to air, the cooling process, it kills about 40% of the active antibodies. My condition is worsening. The bottled milk. It's not enough anymore. It's keeping me alive, but I'm fading. He slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was a check. I looked at the number. $500,000. I need it fresh, he said, his ears turning a dark shade of red, looking away from me. Straight from the source. No air contact. No cooling. Immediate transfer of antibodies. My breath hitched. You mean nursing? Yes. The silence stretched. It was intimate. It was taboo. It was crossing a line that employers and employees never cross. I know it's asking a lot, he said quickly. It's degrading. It's survival. I finished for him. I looked at the check. $500,000. With that money, I could leave Travis tonight. I could buy a condo in cash. I could hire a shark of a divorce lawyer. I could save Bella from growing up in a house filled with screaming and broken plates. I thought of Travis's face when he cornered me in the kitchen. I thought of Mrs. Higgins telling me I was a worthless mother. Then I looked at Arthur. He was dying. And he was offering me freedom in exchange for his life. Okay, I said. He blinked. Okay. Yes. But I have conditions. I need a lawyer. A good one. I'm leaving my husband, and I need protection. Arthur's eyes darkened. He hurts you. He's starting to. Done, Arthur said. My personal legal team is yours. He wheeled himself closer. His hands were shaking. I locked the office door. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. I unbuttoned my blouse. Iunhukid mi bro. I saw him swallow hard. He wasn't looking at me with lust. He was looking at me with reverence. When I guided his head to my chest, he hesitated. Are you sure? Drink, Arthur. I whispered, my maternal instinct taking over. Just drink. He latched on. It was strange. It was overwhelming. But as he drank, I felt the tension leave his body. I felt his strength returning. And surprisingly, I didn't feel degraded. I felt powerful. I held the life of a billionaire in my arms. I was the only thing in the world that mattered to him. For 20 minutes, the only sound was his rhythmic swallowing and the wind howling outside the skyscraper. When he pulled away, milk slicked his lips. His eyes were bright blue, clear and focused. He looked 10 years younger. He looked up at me, and the intensity of his gaze made my toes curl. You saved me, he said. The next 3 months were a blur of dual lives. During the day, I was Chloe, the executive assistant. At lunch and before I left, I was Chloe, the life giver. Arthur, he insisted I call him Arthur now, thrived. He ditched the cane. He put on muscle. He started taking meetings again, dominating the boardroom with a charisma that terrified his competitors. But in our private sessions, he was gentle. He would hold my hand while he nursed. Sometimes, after he was done, he would just rest his head on my chest, listening to my heartbeat. We talked. I told him about Bella, about my dreams of opening a bakery, about my fear of Travis. He told me about his lonely childhood, isolated in sterile rooms, treated like a porcelain doll that might break. We were falling in love. It was twisted. It was based on a biological transaction, but it was real. Meanwhile, my home life imploded. I filed for divorce. Travis went nuclear. He drained our joint account, which only had $200 in it, thanks to my planning, and then tried to claim spousal support. He slashed my tires. He showed up at my old office building screaming my name. Arthur's security team handled it. They put a restraining order on Travis that was so tight, he couldn't even look at a map of Chicago without violating it. But Travis had one card left. Mrs. Higgins. She sued for grandparents' rights. She claimed I was an unfit mother, working long hours, engaging in illicit activities for money. They had found the bank statement for the $50,000. They didn't know where it came from, but they painted it as prostitution. I was terrified. The court date was looming. If I lost custody of Bella, I would die. I was crying in Arthur's office, my shirt open, him resting against me. They're going to take her, Arthur, I sobbed. They're going to say I'm a whore. Arthur sat up. He wiped my tears with his thumb. He looked healthy, strong, and furious on my behalf. They won't take her, he said. You don't know the system. They have a slimy lawyer who plays dirty. Arthur stood up. He walked to his safe and pulled out a document. He placed it on the desk. Chloe, I have a proposal. He looked at me, his expression serious. My condition, it's lifelong. I will always need this. I will always need you. But it's become more than that. I don't just want the milk. I want the woman who gives it. He opened the folder. $5 million, he said. I gasped. Arthur. $5 million. In a trust for Bella. Untouchable by anyone but her when she turns 21. Plus, a monthly stipend of $50,000 for you for life. What? What is the condition? I asked, trembling. Marry me. I stared at him. Marry me, he repeated. Travis can't call you a whore if you're the wife of Arthur Sterling. His mother can't claim you're unfit if you have the best nannies, the best schools, and the best lawyers in the state. If you are my wife, you are untouchable. We destroy them. He stepped closer, taking my hands. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I love you, Chloe. You gave me life when I was dead. Let me give you a life in return. I looked at this man who had been my boss, my patient, and now my savior. I thought of Travis, with his beer stains and his shouting. I thought of Mrs. Higgins and her cruel eyes. Then I looked at Arthur, who looked at me like I was a goddess. Would you let me? He asked, echoing the question he asked months ago. Would you let me take care of you? I didn't hesitate. Yes, I whispered. Yes, Arthur. The wedding was small, conducted by a judge in Arthur's penthouse. But the paperwork was ironclad. The real showdown happened 2 weeks later, in family court. Travis and Mrs. Higgins walked in looking smug. They had a cheap lawyer who looked like he slept in his suit. They thought they had me cornered. They thought I was the scared, broke girl they had bullied for years. Then the doors opened. I walked in. I was wearing a Chanel suit that cost more than Travis made in a year. My hair was done. My head was high. And beside me, holding my hand, was Arthur Sterling. The murmur in the courtroom was instant. Everyone in Chicago knew Arthur Sterling. He was industry royalty. Travis's jaw dropped. Who the hell is that? My lawyer, the top family law attorney in the city, stepped forward. Your Honor, he boomed. My client, Mrs. Chloe Sterling, would like to move for a dismissal of these frivolous claims. Mrs. Sterling? Travis shouted, standing up. She's Chloe Davis. She's my wife. Ex-wife. Arthur said, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. He didn't even look at Travis. He looked at the judge. The divorce was finalized in absentia yesterday, due to Mr. Davis's failure to respond to legal summons. Chloe and I were married this morning. He slid the marriage certificate onto the judge's bench. Mrs. Higgins turned purple. She's sleeping her way to the top. She's unfit. She sells herself. Actually, Arthur said, his tone icy, my wife is a highly paid nutritional consultant for my private estate. Her income is legitimate, taxed, and substantial. She has secured a $5 million trust for her daughter. Can you say the same, Mr. Davis? I believe your credit report shows a gambling debt of $12,000. The judge looked at the documents. He looked at Travis, sweating and red-faced. He looked at Arthur, calm and powerful. Case dismissed, the judge said, banging the gavel. Full custody awarded to the mother. Mr. Davis, you are to stay 500 feet away from Mrs. Sterling and the child, or you will be arrested. Travis lunged. UB*TCH. Arthur moved faster than I thought possible. He stepped in front of me, catching Travis's wrist in midair. With the strength he had regained, the strength I had given him, he twisted Travis's arm behind his back and shoved him into the bailiff. Get him out of my sight, Arthur said. As they dragged Travis away, screaming threats, I felt a weight lift off my soul that I hadn't realized I was carrying. Mrs. Higgins stood alone, looking small and defeated. She looked at me, opening her mouth to speak. Don't, I said. Don't ever come near me or Bella again. I turned my back on her and walked out of the courtroom, my hand in Arthur's. 3 years later, we live in a sprawling estate on the North Shore. The lake glimmers through the windows of the nursery where Bella is playing. She's 4 now, happy, healthy, and calling Arthur daddy. Travis is in jail for violating the restraining order and assaulting a police officer. Mrs. Higgins moved to Florida and hasn't been heard from since. Arthur is healthier than he's ever been. He runs his empire by day and by night he comes home to us. The arrangement hasn't changed, but the context has. It's no longer a transaction. It's a ritual. Every evening after Bella is asleep, we retire to our bedroom. I sit in the armchair by the fire. Arthur kneels before me. It's a moment of quiet worship. He needs the milk to survive, yes. But I need him just as much. He gave me safety. He gave me respect. He gave me love. He unbuttons my silk robe. He looks up at me, his blue eyes filled with a devotion that still takes my breath away. My life, he whispers. My love, I answer. I guide him to me. And as he drinks, feeding on the elixir that binds us together, I know one thing for sure. I'm the richest woman in the world. Not because of the $5 million, but because I am the source of life for the man who saved mine.